On today's show, we're diving deep into the GM survey. Luka Doncic, MVP.
And it's preseason day. The Mavericks play basketball. Let's go.
Woo! All that on today's Locked On Mavs.
Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks Podcast.
Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com. The preseason prayer warrior, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Well, the Mavericks play basketball today. So let's go. Luka Doncic back in action. We'll talk a little bit about that game. We'll talk about the GM survey. I want to have a serious moment right off the top real quick. So today, you guys are listening to this on October the 6th, a lot of you. And it is an anniversary for me. I will be going to Pluckers today. I go to Pluckers one time a year and one time a year only. I will not go on any other time or with anyone else because someone left this earth that I knew a few years ago. And I'm still working through it because this person, I was supposed to go to Pluckers with them and I was too busy. And I say I was too busy. And do I go back and look at some of those texts? Every now and then I do. And it was a short time after that person, died by suicide. So I just want to say that. So on this date, I try to go to Pluckers, sit down, reminisce about him. But I also want to say it to people out there of reach out, make the time. Like, don't have your Pluckers stuff that I'm working on right now. Go make the time. Like, if there's someone in your life that needs to have that conversation with that you've been putting off, and you know that they need you, they need some type of interaction with you or some time, and you're like, dang, man, my schedule is busy and I have XYZ going on, make the time. Make it. It could literally determine anything. So, and obviously if you're in the other spot too, we've talked about mental health on this podcast so many times. Tyrell Terry talked about it on this podcast last week.
Yep. Seek
help. Like we all need help. Both of us on this podcast have went to counseling before.
Yep.
And and if you ever need anything, DM us, reach out. We can get you plugged into the right people and sources. So yeah.
Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a thing where, everything in my life is going wrong, right? Like I feel personally a lot of things in my life are going right. And I still had a moment today where I was like, man, I feel worthless. And you're like, and it doesn't make any sense, why you think that way. And so it doesn't have to. Those thoughts don't have to make sense. They're really not supposed to make sense. So if you're feeling that way, don't rationalize and say, well, I shouldn't be feeling that way. Talk to somebody. Still talk to somebody, right? Because your feelings and your thoughts and all that matter. So that's been a big thing for us on this podcast. Reach out. You can reach out to us. We've talked to people. We've met people and met listeners that have had issues, and we've hopefully been able to help them in some way. And so, that's bigger than basketball, bigger than this show. We want to be people that are there to help people and So, all right, let's, great stuff. Again, reach out to somebody.
Have fun transitioning now, Nick. Sorry, I just threw that on Nick.
Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are going to get into some great stuff today, the GM survey. And we're going to talk about the game coming up. The Mavericks play basketball tonight, and it's the first time in a while we get to do.
Guess what day it is?
Oh, guess what day it is? All right. So, also, we're available on YouTube. All of our Media Day interviews are available on YouTube in full as well. Some good stuff from there. I keep going back to some of them every once in a while and remember just how fun some of the guys are. Good answers. And all that. But a couple of newsy things. Tonight, Mavericks play the Utah Jazz. I Got to meet David Locke for the first time because he's in town. Everybody's in town. I sat in a sandwich shop.
Who else did you meet for the first time?
Sat in a sandwich shop, and while I was waiting for him, Quinn Snyder walks in, and was introduced to Quinn Snyder, and so he's hanging out, and they're all here. It's wild that it's like actually it's real now. Basketball is back. It's real, and the Mavericks play the Utah Jazz. Jason Kidd said that Dorian Finney-Smith, Dwight Powell, Frank Ntilikina, and then obviously Tyrell Terry, who's still away from the team, are all going to be out. Dorian, Frank Ntilikina, and Dwight are out because of rest, Isaac. How do we feel about rest for the first preseason game?
I mean, we know Jason Kidd's a hard coaching coach, so training camp must have been hard.
It must have been really hard. Those guys need rest. There's probably some reason. There's probably some explanation. I don't know what it is, and I'm very confused by rest in the first preseason game.
I'm kidding about the kid thing.
You're Jason kidding?
But we've seen.
Good morning, Isaac.
We've seen other players. I mean, we've seen other teams rest players in the preseason, so it's funny.
First game?
Yeah, didn't the Nets
Dwight went too hard at Fan Jam. He just
that corner three.
That corner three got him. Anyway, so that's what's coming up. We will have a post-game podcast for you. We may not do every single preseason game as post-games, but we'll do every pod that we have, a normal scheduled pod. We will do a post-game after. So, all right. The GM survey came out. This is every single year the NBA releases a GM survey. They go and they survey someone from the general manager's office. It may not necessarily be the general manager themselves, but somebody answers it. John Schulman puts it together, NBA.com, and Luka Doncic was all over this MFR. Like, just so much Luka Doncic mentions in all of this. There were some really fascinating things that we want to get into and talk about. Luka Doncic and Kevin Durant were 1-2 in MVP. Kevin Durant got 37% of the vote. He was number one, and Luka Doncic got 33% of the vote. The next highest player was Giannis Antetokounmpo, who got 13% of the vote. Is the MVP race a race between Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic and nobody else?
Yeah, I don't think that. I thought that was fascinating, just seeing that the GM survey, these front office people think it's a two-headed race, basically, that it's KD, Luka. Now, obviously the season hasn't even started yet, but the fact that Giannis is third on that list is surprising to me, even though he's won a handful of MVPs. But, I mean, there's a guy on here that I don't even think is getting any love right now. I was kind of like, he was kind of my sleeper last year, but I think he's even more of a sleeper this year for me. And he freaking won it last year. It's Jokic. Like, the table's set for if the Nuggets, which I don't think they're going to be as bad as what some people think they are, if the Nuggets literally land in the top 3 or 4 in the West and they don't have Jamal Murray, Jokic could be right up there. And he's not even mentioned on this list.
Yeah, so he didn't get a single vote because Steph Curry is 6th on this list with 3% of the vote, which to me is one vote, like one single vote.
Yeah.
So he didn't get a single vote on this for MVP. Yeah, he should be in there. The Joel Embiid getting a couple votes is interesting. James Harden getting a couple votes. Like, I don't understand how two teammates can both be on the MVP list. It just doesn't happen like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't know if Kyrie's going to play. So
that's true. That is huge. That was news that came out that both sides basically don't know what they're doing. Kyrie is still holding out that he's not getting the vaccine, and the Nets are like, all right, do we want a part-time player or do we just want to cut ties and like not have to deal with this all season at all? That came out from Woj today. So yeah, but as of right now, GMs across the league think that it's a two-man race between Kevin Durant and Luka Doncic for MVP.
Yeah, and I mean it's crazy to think about this. That I mean, this is year 4 for Luka, and he's right here. Like, he was an MVP favorite going into last season and his third season. Now he's here. Like, this is Luka for the next however long. I mean, how many years is he going to be considered an MVP favorite, a top 3 choice for that going into the season? It's probably going to span at least 10 years, maybe like 15 years. Like, it's insane to think about that. But now's the time. Like, he could win it any year now. Like, the stage is set for Luka just as much as anyone else too, because Luka doesn't have the James Harden, Kyrie Irving supporting cast, but he's going to put up monster numbers. The Mavericks, I think, will have a better record. And like, does Durant play all the games? He's probably gonna, if someone's gonna rest more games this year, it's probably gonna be Durant more than it is Luka. So the stage is set for Luka for an MVP run.
Absolutely. The stage definitely set. If they overperform at all, the same thing that goes for Jokic, like you said, goes for Luka, I think. If they overperform a little bit based on some preseason projections, and we'll get into what GMs think about the Mavericks and their preseason projection, because I found that the GM survey really interesting. So we'll get into that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Sweatblock. Sweatblock is a new product that you may not have heard about yet. It's doctor created, doctor recommended, and it's these wipes. And you wipe them under your underarms the night before. And for the next 7 days, you have a dry shirt guarantee from Sweatblock. You don't sweat through your shirt. This shirt I'm wearing right here, I would normally sweat right through it if I would go outside. It's like a blue, grayish type shirt. Boom. I'm pit stains all through this shirt. But with Sweatblock, you don't have to worry about that. You won't have to worry about it. You can wear what you want to wear. It's a little secret to confidence. You know how that's just something else in your mind you have to think about. Oh, I can't raise my arms because I have pit stains. Oh, I can't go hug somebody too close because I have pit stains, right? You don't have to worry about that anymore with Sweatblock. So go check it out. It's the #1 antiperspirant category product on Amazon right now. That's absolutely insane. 20% off at Sweatblock when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. You can also get it at Amazon or CVS, but if you want that 20% off, go to sweatblock.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 20% off. Again, Sweatblock, get the wipes, get the deodorant, all that kind of stuff. Also, they have some undercarriage deodorant and lotion that helps with chafing. And as someone that just walked like a real long way at Disney the other day, it definitely works. So go check out.
Undercarriage. What are you talking about?
Go check it.
Maxi's.
What's a home run? Go check it out, sweatblock.com. Also want to tell you about fantasy. Fantasy basketball has one issue, and it's the issue that I've dealt with the entire time I tried to get into fantasy basketball, and that is that everybody plays a different amount of games every week. It's not like the NFL where you play one game and it's pretty easy to just set them up, set the pins up and knock them down, basically. Instead, you're like, all right, do I set up 20 pins or 25 pins? Sleeper has fixed that with their brand new game pick. You pick one game per player and they play that game. You go in there. It's the most strategic fantasy basketball experience in the industry. So you will love Game Pick. Download the Sleeper app and start a league with your friends today. You will not be disappointed in Sleeper. Again, download the app, use Game Picks so that you don't have to worry about all the different games and keeping track of all that. Again, download the Sleeper app, start your league with friends today. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into some more of the GM survey. We talked about Luka for MVP. Him and Kevin Durant are #1 and #2 in that. But Giannis was #3. You mentioned that. He's the only one that got more than, it seems like, 2 votes. Because Joel Embiid seemed to got 2. James Harden seems like he got 2. Curry got 1. So Giannis and Antetokounmpo still getting some votes there. Giannis and Luka came up a lot together. If you were going to start a franchise today and could sign any player in the NBA, who would it be? Luka, #1 with 43% of the vote. Giannis, #2 with 40% of the vote. No one else got more than 1 vote.
It's pretty wild. It's a testament to just how good Luka is that Giannis can win an MVP. I mean, a 2-time MVP winner who just put up 50 points in a Game 7. MVP. And a finals MVP also, and a champion at the age of 26. And he's still not the runaway choice for this award, like for this question. Like, it shows you just how good Luka is. I think that this is obvious. The biggest thing for this question is Luka's 4 years younger. And
for sure,
the projection for him, like what he's done already this early in his career is just, it's something we haven't seen really. So I'm not surprised by that. I am surprised that Zion is on this list as far as receiving votes. And hold on, I'm looking for Trae Young. I don't see Trae Young anywhere. So sorry, I was just scanning the list. I didn't know how far down it went, but I didn't see him anywhere. This soundboard, we're gonna fight.
I just needed the fake laughter under your Trae Young bit. Yeah. LeBron got a vote, though, for if you were going to start a franchise today. That one is, come on.
Wait, I think Brian Windhorst voted.
LeBron got a vote. Zion got a vote. Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Jokic. The Jokic one I understand. Zion, I guess I kind of understand, but I would just rather have Luka than Zion at this point. Yeah. So that one is interesting. So they went neck and neck in the, if you're going to start a franchise today and you could sign any player, who would it be? And then the next question was, who is the best international player in the NBA? And Giannis got 60% of the vote. Luka, 27%. Jokic, 13%. He just won MVP.
I know, it's wild.
And all those guys, I feel like, should be neck and neck and neck. But Giannis got way more votes, basically double the votes that Luka did for best international player. Is there cognitive dissonance there? Is there like, okay, you would start a franchise with Luka, but you don't think he's the best international player? Or is it just the age thing that you mentioned before?
I can't find that question, by the way, on mine, but
down towards the bottom.
Oh, did they have Luka number 1 on that?
Best international player, Giannis number 1 with 60% of the vote. Luka number 2, 27% of the vote. Jokic number 3 with 13% of the vote.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna correct it and be like, Giannis should be number 1 on that over Luka because, like, at this moment. But I mean, it's just kind of, I don't like, who are you putting Jokic over? Like, you're just not gonna put him over. I mean, you can make the argument that Jokic is better than Luka right now because he just won MVP and like all of that. But even that, I mean, I say you can make an argument. I don't agree with it. I think Luka's better than Jokic.
The other thing I found really interesting about this survey was they asked who's the best point guard, best shooting guard, best small forward, best power forward, best center. They ask all 5 positions. And there are 4 players in the NBA that got votes for best player at a certain position at 3 different positions. Some of them are obvious, right? Giannis got votes at small forward, power forward, and center. He got a couple of votes at center, which I found pretty interesting, but I would definitely take Giannis as a center over maybe anybody in the NBA. And then LeBron James got votes at point guard, small forward, and power forward. Makes sense. He does play all those positions. Kevin Durant got votes at shooting guard, small forward, and power forward. And then Luka got votes at point guard, shooting guard, and small forward. He was number 3 for best point guard. He got 1 less vote than Damian Lillard. Steph Curry was number 1 with 57%. He was number 3 for best shooting guard. He got a couple of votes there, a couple less than Devin Booker, which I found kind of interesting. But it's because the votes are being spread out for Luka. And then Luka got a vote for best small forward as well. We don't think about Luka as a versatile player, I don't think. But he is. We think of him as balls in his hand, and he's going to go do his thing, and he's going to cook. He's a scorer. He's a passer. He's a point guard. But we don't think of Luka as he's big. He can defend multiple positions. He can defend fairly well, but he can handle multiple guys in multiple different positions. He can also destroy guys on the other end, right? Like offensively, Luka can take advantage of different kinds of mismatches, and that's a level of versatility that we don't think about. When you think of a versatile player, you think of, okay, speaking of fantasy basketball, you think of a fantasy basketball player I can put at small forward, power forward, shooting guard, right? Like you can put him in a bunch of different positions. It's usually the athletic wing, LeBron's, Giannis's, and Kevin Durant's. So you think about those guys, but you don't think about a guy like Luka. But he can be used in so many different ways. And I think thinking about Luka as a versatile player is something we don't do often.
No, we talk about, I want to say offensively, we talk about it, the 3-level score, and, how good he is in the post and the mid-range stuff last year that everyone freaked out about. We know he has the step back 3. Like offensively, there's nothing in the league that like he can't do or he doesn't have in his arsenal. But then like defensively, we feel like he took a step, further in the bubble. I thought he got better last year. Yep. He guards 4s a lot. You're not going to put him out there. And it's even common sense too. Like you're not going to ask a 6'8" Luka to even chase around a point guard out there, let alone like you question, if he can. But like you're not going to do that because you don't want to tire him out either. But he could switch defensively. But it's like even on offense stuff too. Like the next level for his game is, and while we've wanted another creator on this team, like, can we get him playing off ball some? Like, I want him to get some more spot up shots. I want all of that. Like, that's a next level to not just his offense, but the Mavs offense.
Yeah, the versatility, like you mentioned, the posting up, the mid-range, the three-point shots, the step back, the drive and kick, the drive and finish around the rim. He can do all of those things, and there's a level of versatility to that we don't necessarily think about. You can put so many different players around Luka and the lineups still work, right? Think about what's a Mavericks like huge lineup they could run out there. They could run out like Luka, Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxey, and KP, right? Like that's like a huge lineup that has a bunch of different But they could also run out like Brunson, Tim Hardaway Jr., Luka, and a bit, Dwight and KP, right? They can run out different lineups like that. And that kind of versatility from Luka helps the Mavericks a lot, and it helps them be as good as they are. And that's an area of his game I don't think we give enough credit to.
Yeah, it gives them just more flexibility of building the roster. Like, I know we joke about the Trae Young thing, but like that you have to account more for Trae Young.
He's got one spot.
Yeah, well, you have to account more for like Trae Young's defense, which Atlanta did. Like, Atlanta did great. Like, I'm not even like, I mean, they made it to the conference finals last year in the freaking East. So like, I get that. Like, it worked. They've had success in the playoffs, but they built a great team like around him and a lot of role players around him to where I think it's easier to build around a guy like Luka to where like you just have more flexibility. Like, it's not that big of a defensive, I don't know what the right
liability.
Liability.
Yeah. And you don't have to plan around that as much. So I found that part of the survey really interesting, the versatility aspect of Luka's game, that he can get votes for best player at a certain position at 3 different positions. Not many players can do that, right? Yeah. Dame, Steph Curry, other guys. Here's other guys that got votes on this list. Harden, Dame, Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Jokic got some votes. Devin Booker, Kawhi Leonard, Chris Middleton got a vote for best small forward. I'm like, Chris Middleton's dad working in front office somewhere.
Wow.
Bradley Beal got a vote for best shooting guard. So there's all these different guys, but they don't have the versatility that Luka does, and that's an interesting part of his game that we don't get to talk about very often. All right, coming up, let's run through the rest of this survey. There's a lot of still good stuff. Where are the Mavericks ranked? They ranked all the teams, and there's a really interesting thing that that says what people think about the Dallas Mavericks. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about betonline.ag. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to put down some money on sports. You can go right now. Bet on some NFL if you'd like to. The Dallas Cowboys still a 7-point favorite against the New York Giants. You can go bet on some baseball too. We were just watching the Red Sox-Yankees game before we recorded. Dodgers-Cardinals. Dodgers are home against the Cardinals for the wild card game tonight. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, October 6th. Dodgers, 1.5-point favorite at home with Scherzer on the mound. If you want to put some money on that, have some extra stuff. These wildcard games are intense. If you want to put some more intensity into that game, go ahead and put some money down. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Get a 50% welcome bonus for your first deposit. Bet online, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Isaac Harris. Let's get into some more about this GM survey. Again, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every single day. We are getting into the GM survey, but when you're done, go listen to Locked On Fantasy Basketball, the #1 fantasy basketball podcast. All right, Isaac. So let's just run through the rest of the mentions of the Dallas Mavericks. We talked about a lot of the Luka mentions. The Mavericks, there's been a couple people post about this today, but the Mavericks were put 7th in the West in the GM survey. And this is how they kind of came to that. They had everybody rank the teams 1 through 4. And then the amount of points that they got for those votes. So 1 point for 4th place, 2 points for 3rd place, and so on. Then they took the percentage of those points, of the total points, and made it, put it in a ranking. So it was Lakers 1, Jazz 2nd, Suns 3rd, Nuggets 4th, Golden State Warriors 5th, Clippers 6th, Dallas 7th, and Portland 8th. Now, here's the interesting part of that. So you're like, okay, that order, you agree or disagree on it for the regular season. The Mavericks got 21% of the 4th place votes. The Clippers didn't get any 4th place votes at all. They got a couple of 2nd place votes, which doesn't make any sense, and then a 3rd place vote. The Golden State Warriors, who were 5th, got 18% of the 4th place votes, so less than the Mavericks, and only 1 3rd place and a couple of seconds. So the Mavericks got more votes at 4th than a couple of teams above them, and yet we're still lower because they didn't get as many top votes, which makes me think that that these GMs are so split on the Mavericks. They either think they're 4th or like 8th, right? Because of that split. And so I found that really, really interesting. But they also think that they only cap out at 4th. Do you think that's fair?
I think it's fair. Yeah, I'm kind of confused on, there's 1 or 2, 2 people in there that think the Clippers could finish 2nd. And
yeah, they got 2 votes for 2nd in the West. So did the Warriors. The Warriors one kind of makes a little sense, But yeah, couple in there. I think the Clippers can. Is it just the Clippers? Like, did the Clippers get to vote for themselves?
But then another person voted for him to be third. So, those 3 votes right there. If we just say, each vote is whatever, it's like those, make them, over Dallas and that. So I think it's, rightfully so where Dallas is at 4. I mean, I think that's the, 4 through 6, somewhere through there. I could hear the argument of Dallas versus Denver, even without Jamal Murray. The Clippers one, I don't know. I'm just lower on the Clips, but
and I am too. And that Clippers team,
but Ty Lue's a good coach, so
Ty Lue's a good coach, and they showed some stuff in the playoffs even without Kawhi. They went on and beat the Utah Jazz team. The Utah Jazz got a ton of first place, second place, third place votes in there.
And what are the Clippers and Nuggets like saying about Dallas? Like, I know what they're like. We all know what they're saying. Jason Kidd can he actually be a head coach?
Yep.
Like
the questions we're asking.
Porzingis, is he healthy? Like, we saw what he looked like in a playoff. Like, I get what they're saying too. We're going to be more positive about that on this pod. So that, yeah, but I think that's the range for Dallas. Like Lakers, Utah, Phoenix. I think those are kind of like locks for those like top 3 seeds there. And then like, where does, if Clay, I used to put Golden State in to make it a top 4, but now that we've heard like a longer timeline for Clay, I kind of move him down a little bit, at least to the next level.
Yeah, you're going to play half the season without Klay Thompson, and then he's going to have to be coming back in January and, get his feet under him and all that kind of stuff. That to me is not a 4th place team or a top 4 team. Yeah. Another one I found interesting, on top of all the stuff we just mentioned about how Luka was one of the best players in the NBA, he was voted one of the best international, if you're going to start a franchise, all that stuff. He only got 1 vote for which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments. And I honestly think that that's a compliment. You just can't adjust for Luka. It's just kind of, he exhibits his will. He like just forces his will against a team and just does what he's going to do. Joel Embiid only got 1 vote as well. It's very similar, those 2 players. Like, you can't really adjust for these guys. It's just like you go and defend them as best you can and, take the results and take away everybody else on the team, basically. Number 1 on that list was Steph Curry. Number 2 was Kevin Durant. LeBron, number 3. Harden, number 4. And Giannis, number 5.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't even know how to take that question. Because I feel like Steph's kind of in that same category too. Like, Steph's going to do whatever he wants to do, but with Luka, I don't really know what adjustment.
I mean, to a level, you can say the same for all these players, right? Like, how do you really, adjust against Kevin Durant? But apparently, coaches think you can adjust against Steph Curry and do some stuff and play certain defenses. So.
Yeah, there's some coaching stuff that I wanted to throw out here too, unless you have it in front of you. Go for
it. Yeah, I got a couple of other random ones, but yeah, the coaching stuff was very interesting.
Yeah, so Rick Carlisle getting some love here. Head coach, best in-game adjustments. We know Rick's pretty popular for this. Ty Lue was number 1 at 37%. Rick, seems weird seeing Rick next to Indiana at 27%. But then the question, which new or relocated head coach will make the biggest impact on his new team? Number 1 at 64% of the vote is Jason. No, not Jason Kidd. Is Rick Carlisle for Indiana. 64% of the vote. Jason Kidd comes in at 3rd on that list at 11% of the vote. So, yeah, a lot of love for Rick in Indiana. And honestly, I believe it. Like, I think Rick's going to do great in Indiana. I think they're going to have a good record too.
Agreed. Yeah, I completely agree with this and find it really interesting. But I found it interesting that Jason Kidd got like basically 3 votes on this. Chauncey Billups got 1, Jamal Mosley got 1, Wes Unseld Jr. in Washington got 1 vote. And so, yeah, which new coach basically will have the biggest impact? And Jason Kidd got a couple. We don't know what impact means. Maybe they took that in a negative.
It said best impact.
Biggest. It says biggest.
Oh, big. Oh, dang. Okay.
Biggest. That could be true for Rick Carlisle too. Does he have a big impact one way or the other? Maybe he comes in as like, all right, we're trading all these guys. Then that's the impact. Did you find it interesting the Mavs didn't get any votes for best assistant in the NBA? That vote was all over the place. Like,
well, they just redid their coaches staff.
Yeah, basically everybody just picked one. Just picked one, but Igor didn't get a vote for best assistant in the NBA.
Well, like Kenny Atkinson comes in at number 1 on this, but Kenny's like been a coach and he's been successful as a head coach. Like no shot at Igor, but he doesn't have like a big successful track record in the NBA.
Darvin Ham, Nate Vanderpool, Nate Tibbetts, or David Vanderpool, Nate Tibbetts all got votes for best assistant, and they haven't had track record. Scott Brooks, his track record's
but like at least Scott Brooks did OKC run, like all of that.
Yeah,
so,
but the other 3 guys haven't, and so I'm just interested that he didn't get a
Darvin
single
Ham,
vote.
Milwaukee, like he's been very well respected. They just won
Jacques
the title.
Vaughn got a vote, and Igor didn't get a vote.
Okay. You have a point. Damon Stoudemire got a vote in that. Ain't this his first job?
D'Antoni got a vote. He should get more than 1 vote, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Who has the best basketball IQ? Luka number 3, after LeBron number 1, Chris Paul number 2. Dude, that to me maybe is the biggest one we haven't talked about yet. Is third best basketball IQ in the NBA after LeBron and Chris Paul, who have played almost the entirety of Luka's life.
Yeah, more than Kyrie too.
Jokic is number 4 on that list. Nobody else received votes, really. Which player would you want to take a shot with the game on the line? Luka got a couple of votes there. He was number 4, tied with Jokic, after Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Dame Lillard. Kyrie did get a vote in that one, by the way.
Who was number 1 on that list?
Kevin Durant, number 1 at 41% of the vote.
Okay, that's good.
Who would you want?
KD.
Game on the line. Yeah, I think I would pick KD too.
KD's just done it at the biggest stage.
And just the type of shots he can get, it's just,
Luka can get any shot he wants. It's just KD's made him on the biggest stage possible. So
I think KD can get more shots than Luka can, to be honest. Just because of the height. 7 feet tall, he can rise up over everybody.
Yeah.
Most fun team to watch. The Nets number 1 at 30% of the vote. Golden State Warriors number 2 at 17%. Hawks and Hornets tied with 10%. The Mavericks and Nuggets tied with 7% of the vote. They were number 5.
Interesting. I wouldn't say the Nuggets are fun to watch, but sure. I like the other ones.
I think the Nuggets are fun to watch. Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon.
Ooh, big time contract, Michael Porter Jr.
Jokic doing his thing. We haven't talked about Porter Jr. getting the same contract as Luka.
Yeah, we got to talk about DeAndre Ayton. Well, Porter did not get the same contract as Luka. Neither did Trae Young. None of them got the same contract because they can't, because they don't have the All-NBA.
That's right. Anything else that stood out to you in this?
Okay, there was one question that I was just like, what in the world? It has nothing to do with the Mavericks, but which player is most likely to have a breakout season? Jaren Jackson Jr., number 1 on this. I'm like, how did this come to Jaren Jackson Jr., Anthony Edwards, Michael Porter Jr., Darius Garland, Keldon Johnson?
Jaren Jackson Jr. going into his 4th year, he's been hurt.
I know it seems like just a random choice to to win this vote.
Maybe this is the year that he finally kind of, stays healthy and puts it all together. Also, they traded Jonas, so there's a big role for him to fill on this team.
That's true. Terrence Mann got a vote.
Terrence, well, based on the way he played against the Mavs in the playoffs, I would vote for Terrence Mann as well. What rule most needs to change? The take fouls, the transition fouls, like the clear path type things.
Ooh,
this is like a Luka special. That was number 1. Those fouls that stop fast breaks. Additional coaches challenge. Apparently GMs want you to be able to keep it when you're successful. That's true. 10% got free agency before the draft as a change that they want to see.
I'm down for that.
Free agency before the draft.
Yeah, I'd like that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I'm down for that. I'm not sure. It's just been the order in my brain has just been so, draft then free agency.
I don't think draft people, I don't think the Raphaels and Chad Fords of the world would love that, because talking about really jacking up your mock drafts. I mean, I guess it could help for content, because then you have to create more, because if you've had a team, locked in to take a point guard at the 6th overall pick, and then bam, in free agency right before the draft, they sign a point guard, you're like, well, that means they're not going to take, so you're just cranking out new mock drafts, which is more content, which is more money.
But then it opens the moratorium to where you can talk about other players. So maybe the intel game for the draft changes a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another rule that
those conversations never happen right now.
Those 2 players that are two votes for Elam ending as a rule that they want to see change. I found that interesting that 2 GMs are down with that.
I mean, sure.
You don't like the Elam ending?
I think it's fun. It's not my like pressing. If we're talking about some rule stuff, then there's some other ones that's higher up on my priority list of. Like I saw something very encouraging a few nights ago. Golden State's first preseason game. Steph Curry does a step back, pump fake.
Stop. You watched a preseason game?
No, I watched a little bit of it.
Okay.
A little bit of it. He does a step back, pump fakes. Guy jumps into the air. Steph, like one step, leans into him, tries to shoot the three. Dude clobbers Steph, no foul. And I'm like, let's go. Let's go. And because they're trying to make a point of that this year. Now, I'm clapping right now, but tonight against the Jazz, Luka will probably do this and not get the foul, and he's going to complain, and I'm going to be complaining for him too.
Yeah, right.
So y'all can call me out whenever I say, that's a foul. What are we talking about?
There you go, guys. The Jazz played tonight. We will be back with a post-game pod. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.